let's make progress and navigate into React TypeScript. So for us to work on this, I assume that if you are coming to this point, you have checked out my previous tutorial for you to get to this point. So here in the installation using TypeScript, this is where we are going to be focusing on now, and we're going to be seeing how we can use TypeScript in our project. All right. So for you to be able to use TypeScript inside of React, you would need to install types /React. So this is an npm package. You also need to install React DOM, the type of it. So you have to install this too before you get started. This is the first way you can do this. But another way you can do this by installing everything from beginning. All right. So what I usually do is I use vit. So vit.dev, and we'll just run a quick boilerplate whereby we'll be using TypeScript. All right, and everything is giving you out of the box. So I'll just go to my terminal here. I'm already inside of my desktop and hit the command npm create vite latest, and then I'll just say that this is a vit project. We can just say this tutorial app, something like that. All right, dot app. And then we choose the framework we want, which is React. Then because we want TypeScript, we pick the first one, TypeScript, and so this is ready for us. So we could now, we can now open this in VS Code. So this opens automatically for me and based on my settings, and I can get rid of this. So with this, the other thing I need to do is to install all necessary packages that comes with it, and then I can now run my my server as it should be. I believe that at this point you already know how React works, and you understand the basics. So what we'll be doing now is just coding on top of what we already have in React. All right. So here in the app.csx file. So let's make sure we are in our terminal. So here in the app.csx file, we can start looking here and see how things are laid out, and then we'll see how we can convert this from being just a regular React to a TypeScript React. All right. So let's start our server. So we'll do npm run dev like that, and then as this opens for us, we can now navigate, and we have our boilerplate running properly for us. So we just want to see how we can add TypeScript on top of our React here. So for that, we can start by working on the states here. So this is exactly what happens here. So how can you convert a state? So I'm trying to see if there's anyone here. Okay, great. How can you convert a state to a TypeScript type, something like that? So for you to do that, for example, here at this moment, this is showing us that this state is a state of number. All right, and this is it because it's inferring that because you assigned it 0, it is a state of number. But for you to specify that this is a state of number, then not state of number, a type of number rather, you need to come here and put in your type, which is a number type, like so. So once you specify this, then it knows exactly that this should be a number and nothing else but a number. All right. You could also specify other ones. So let me get rid of everything inside of here. All right, and then let's just have this empty frame here. Then we'll just put in our count here, count, so that we have that showing up. All right, we'll also specify something else. Say for example we want to do people, so we could, let me just use let me use the shorthand. So let's say I want to say a name. Let's say I want to use name. I could say the name should be a string, right? So if I want to specify that name is a string, I need to specify here that the type is a type of string. So let's make sure this is working correctly and this is properly done. So if I choose to put it down here and type name here, it should show whatever I've passed in there, which means everything is working. So it's showing just 0 because that's all we have here. All right, great. So let's keep it at that, and then let's make progress to other parts. So something else that can use type would be context. But before we move to context, I want to check for components. So when we are working with components, we might want to specify types in passing down props. All right. So say for example, let's clear all of this. So say for example, we decide to create say a new component here. So let's create a component file here, components, and inside of here we want it to have the count and name. So let's just call the component results components results dot tsx. All right, and here we are expecting to have these two p tags inside of it. All right, so that means a count and name. So usually we would have just say this is count and this is name. Right, this is what we would have done usually, but because this is TypeScript, we have to specify the type. So you see it's telling us binding element count of implicitly any has an any type. So for us to do this, we need to specify what each one should be. So for example, the count may be number and the name has to be string. So you see, as soon as we do it, our editor stops yelling at us, and then we can come here and we can now call the results component like this, and then pass down these two elements that we need. All right, so we just say count is equal to count and name is equal to name. So we change this to Sen like this. So we should have this twice on our screen, as you can see. So so let me make sure this is showing properly. All right, so as you can see, so this is the main or the home component, that is the app.tsx, and this is the result component that we just added. So this is another way you can use TypeScript inside of React. Now, if this gets a little more bigger than what we already have in here, then you might start noticing that our component might really become really bulky and messy. So what we can do is to also specify the type here. So type results props, something like this, and then pass in these two items that we have here. All right, so we could just take this off and paste it in here. Now, instead of specifying everything out here, we could now just put down the results props, and that now makes everything inside of one line, making it cleaner than it was at the previous time. So I want to bear all this in mind as work with TypeScript in React. So we've been able to cover a bunch of things. So we've covered components. We've also covered the use state here. So something else we might want to cover is use context. So how to specify TypeScript in a context file that we want to use. All right, so let's create a context file. So let's create it inside of the components, or let's just create a new folder and call it context, and then we just say app context here, app context like that .tsx. All right, so looking at what we have here, there are places you can specify the context. So for example, we've already established that you can specify context here at the use state, something like that. So let's see how it works here in context in our file. So up till now, this is what your React context file would have looked like. So you create your context at this point, and then you create a provider at this other level, and then you return whatsoever variables you want to pass in from here to other files. Great. So how then do you add TypeScript? Already, because we have not added TypeScript, we are getting a bunch of errors, like the create context here and the children here. So let's work on this. So the first thing we want to specify is a type, or it could be a type, or it could also be interface. So anyone works. So it could be a type or interface, you know. And this could also be any name. The app context props you are seeing here could actually be any name. But this is where all the types would be. So any type you are declaring here would pass through there, and then you would pass it down here as an empty string. So you just do empty curly braces as app context props. All right. I prefer to make this a type, by the way. So on your own, you could choose to give it anything. I just feel like that works better. And of course, make sure you set an equal to here. So let me just get rid of all this error. All right. So now that we've done that, it's just throwing all this error because I've not passed in anything. So if I want to pass in something, maybe I should just do a use state, and specify a particular type. So I could just do the count I did before, or we had before, specify 0, and now here you can now specify that hey, count is a number, and then set count a we can specify this to be a dispatch like normal. So if you hover on top of this, it shows you a bunch of things you need to know, but this is what I'm talking about. So here we have react.dispatch, and inside of here we now have the react.state action and specifying that this is a number. So first of all, we need to specify here that this is a number, okay, and close the braces like so. Then for this set count like this, you could set it this way, but want to do it the right way. So you need to do a react.dispatch, and inside of the dispatch you need to pass in the set action. Now to make this cleaner, we can just get rid of the react dot and the react dot here and import react at the top here. Then we also need to import dispatch here and set state action like so. So once we do this, we should be good to go. And of course, if we choose to at this point, we can now remove the react that we have here, all right, and set this count properly like so. So far we've done two things. First of all, we've set up the types, where we'll be setting up the kind of types that anything that will pass into our context would be. So we also set up here showing that all these types goes into this context that we've created. Then for setting this use state, we've been able to see how we can set use state the right way, setting the number and then setting dispatch the way it should be. Now the next thing would be the children. We need to set up the children because at this point it is implicitly any. So we could do another type here, and we want this to be the provider props. So what we did was the context props. So we want it to be the provider props, and then make sure we close it. Then inside of it, we want to specify that children should be react.node. So again, we could choose to move this up and get rid of this and just have react at this point. Then we could have react node here, or whatever we want. If we want to import it at the top, we could just import it at the top and get rid of react from this top. And then for this, we now pass this like a props. So by this we are specifying that hey, this should be the app provider props, something like this. So now that we have this set up, we can now pass down whatever I want to pass down from the context. So here's the count, and here is the set count. So with this, everything is working properly and perfectly as it should be. And if we try to get this from another page, it should work just as it should be. So let's set this to 1000 just to make sure it works. And then we can get rid of the counts we have here, or we can just get rid of the two of them. And then we want to call on context. So let's get context, all right, and then use context. We just get the count. We just need the count, and what we are passing here is the app provider. No, just the app is fine. And then want to make sure that this is properly passed. So I think the problem is from the naming, because we already have this file to be app and we are importing app here. So we need to make sure that we change this to something else. So we could just change this to say app context, something like this. This works fine. So let's save that, come back here, and then we can safely import app context as it should be. App context like that. So that works. And then we could either get rid of this name or put in something else. So for now, let's do something else. So very plenty. All right, so we can get rid of use state, and then we also need to wrap our main file with app provider. I assume that you already know these things that I'm doing, but we're just testing out what we did in the context file since we are working with TypeScript. So now when we go back here and do a refresh, it should be showing us exactly what we have, which shows that what we have done is correct. And that is it. This is how you can add TypeScript to your file. I've summarized a bunch of things that goes on here, but you can check it out on your own. That concludes it for React TypeScript.